And we're live. We're Saturday Night Live. Back again. You know, what I mean, episode 4 of Roots and Records. Yes, we have lost our logo. You may have noticed we don't have our logo anymore. Kareem, no, you never just
Right. Those are reflex. Those are
yeah,
reflex.
we have the effects. So obviously, you know, the last couple of episodes we've had some technical difficulties that we've had to navigate. So we've tried to fix those, and obviously we don't lose the graphics. But you know, the goal is gonna be that we're gonna have we're gonna have better sound, obviously better video quality. I'm here, you know, with my co-host
Yep.
Kareem Bowyatingz
Yeah.
and have our guest, special guest Tanya Lee coming. I think it's gonna be a very interesting conversation about the sports, marketing in sports, the economy behind sports. One of the conversations that me, a business major, is very excited to have, and you, a fan. If you're really a fan of the sport, you want to understand all aspects of the sport, especially the business of it, right? So, Kareem, what do you think about the conversation that we're gonna have with Tanya Lee today?
Yo, I love it, especially from a marketing standpoint. It's something that I've always been talking about that we don't market the sport enough.
Yeah,
In general, obviously, worldwide, but for me, here in Jamaica, we have so many superstars, yeah?
yeah,
Of a bag of people who are things, and we just feel like we're not sell the sport enough. We're not marketing these events, really and truly, we're not. So, as we can,
as we can.
as we
Yes,
can, yeah. So marketing. I mean, sports. It is a job, and them have to make money from it. So yeah,
and that's part of why me and you we're doing this right now, right?
yeah,
We're two people who are sitting down like, hey, what can we do to better the sports? You know, we have our own profession, our own talents, and we're thinking about how we can contribute to it. And it's something that we're doing out of mostly passion for sure.
yeah.
Trying to push the athletes to a new level. And also, if you guys are in any type of problems, let me know if the sound is good. Comment. I love that everybody was engaged yesterday. Everybody was letting us
Yo,
know.
yo, the sound, the sound,
Yeah,
the sound.
yeah, the song was good. But like going into this week, the trials has kicked off.
Yes.
Olympians are gonna be made this week, and let me tell you, from my experience of becoming an Olympian, you know, I was nervous, but at the same time, I was excited. Just like Melanie Walker talked about,
Mm-hmm.
those moments, and just like Jaden, trying to like phase out know, the nervousness and the focus on the task at hand. That's what they've been practicing for all year. But to start the stream off, before our business guests come in, we want to talk some business.
Yeah.
We've seen some money come in to play this week, leading up to the trials. About 350,000 Jamaican JMD dollars are gonna be given to every athlete. Karim, do you think that's enough?
Boy, uh, I don't think we can put any value on what we particularly think that these athletes should get. That's number one, right? Because everybody, I think, have a specific figure in their mind. I've seen the conversation where people are just like, "Oh, $360,000 and a whole heap of money," and I know some people are saying, "Let's stop saying it's a start," right?
Yeah,
Because I don't know that, but it is really a start.
yeah,
You know what? Like, we can't be here trying to rally for athletes to be getting paid. Once again, I cannot put a figure. I can't say, well, I think $2 million is enough because other people out there may say, but $2 million, I don't know money, right?
yeah.
360 grand if you make the team, and then the split of $1 million for the relay.
For the relay, yeah.
Yeah, I
To me,
mean,
I agree with you. Same thing. Like when people start getting paid in any facets, it's not like you're not gonna start off on the high end. I think about it as a long term thing. Like 10 years from now,
yeah,
it's probably gonna be a million each.
yeah.
Hopefully.
Hopefully,
What
we
I mean?
can
As
reach
Karim
there.
said, you said this. Let's see if they might get the money first. You know what I mean? So 'cause we already know how that is.
Oh,
So like
brother.
it's not just Jamaica, right? You
Right.
see all of this the track league coming up, Michael Johnson's new track league coming up
Yes.
at 100,000 USDs.
Mhm.
USDs, 100,000 USDs for the winner. What do you think about that type of prize money, given that it's 10 times the amount of a diamond league?
Yo, I love what he's trying to do in the sport.
Yeah.
I love this initiative. Once
Yeah.
again, we've seen, oftentimes athletes don't really talk about their contracts, obviously, and they might talk about,
Yep.
how much money they're making or whatever the case is. But I saw a post from Kyrie King,
Yep.
and he was kind of outlining what his contract looked
Yeah.
like, how much money he's making. A lot of people were surprised. Now, bear in mind, because I do have a lot of athletes friends, I know some of these contracts are really not contracting at all.
Not what I think it is.
So the 100 grand, that sounds good. And I feel like it's an incentive. Like, people are going to want to perform more. bear in mind, back in the day when Asafa used to do well on the Diamond League circuit, a lot of people used to complain and say, "Oh, him only run for money." Yeah, like it's his job.
Yeah, just
Like,
like you only go to your job for money. Yeah, you can be passionate about your job and also want to do it for money too.
you won't get paid.
Yeah, so that's one of the biggest thing that I came into track and field with, right? I don't want to say I'm the first, but I am one of the first persons to be talking openly about finances and what's happening behind closed doors when it comes to contract. A lot of fans just don't know. It's not that the NFL or the NBA where you know exactly what someone is making, what they're worth. Let me tell you why pay transparency is so important, right? When you don't know what somebody else is getting, that means the person who's paying can always underpay that next person, right? So everybody's keeping this secrecy, and you're over here getting X amount, and you're doing a lot better than someone else. And that person might say, "Hey, I want to get paid more than you, even though I'm not doing better." But look, you're selling the sales chart because you're keeping the market down. They talk about that when it comes to market cap. If you take the 400-meter runners, for instance, right, and they're paying the fastest guy $400,000, that means that's the market cap.
Yeah.
But what if everybody else was getting paid equally, where the guy is getting paid $350,000? Now they have to boost the fastest guy up of the 600,000, and that moves everybody up below. So like even if you're the top paying person, everybody else coming close to you in earnings gives you a negotiation tactic to say, hey, I'm doing significantly better than this next person, so I should get paid more. And also an incentive for the meets to be more creative. You can't be going to a meet where you pay for your masseuse, pay your coaches, pay for flights, pay for everything, and get paid like $1,000.
And I mean, it's
From
like,
a business standpoint, it doesn't make any sense.
Sometimes that can't even, and some of these meets, based on what I've heard too, not all athletes are quote unquote star athletes where the meet organizers are paying for your flight and your accommodation, right? Sometimes these athletes do have to find their way there. Right, and if you know I go win at $1,000 can't buy a ticket for go back home, because sometimes these meets are way across the world, and as you've said, you have a team of people, you have a masseuse, you have your physio, you have your coach, right? It is expensive. These people are supposed to be getting paid.
Yeah,
I'm all for that.
100%,
all for it.
100%. I mean, I made some tweets before, and as I'm looking, I saw that T is in the chat.
I'll big up yourself. Real talk with T.
So go on. But I want you to say that in person. Shout out to T. She's also a sports creator doing her thing right now.
Yeah, man.
US, trials. So
love it.
Love that we're all in.
But speaking of trials, you were at trials.
Yes.
Bear in mind, people, if you're wondering why do I have on a tracksuit, a sweatsuit, it's because it's raining cats and dogs in Jamaica, right? It's like a whole hurricane happening, and I'm like, bear in mind, I love the rain. But then I pre-tell me and say, but why no? Right? At the start of trials,
it's been great
people,
all week.
They were running in -4 wind in some of those 100 meters today, right? So it's like a hurricane outside. But you were there. You caught some of the races. We saw the prelims for the prelims of the 100 meters for men. We also saw the prelims for the prelims of the 400 meters for men as well. Your thoughts?
I mean, it's super early. We survived the mini hurricane that happened. Hopefully everything clears up, because obviously you know what's coming later, right?
Yeah.
Big things coming later.
Yeah.
And them are things.
Them are things.
So far, I'm just glad. I have this love for track where it's just going out there, just a great feeling. And I mean, Jamaica as a whole share that love because of our history and what track and field has done for us as a country. And so the 400-meter stepped up. It's just the prelims. For a lot of people don't know, if Kareem, if you could explain to them what's happened with the 4x4 and how they've moved the schedule around a little bit.
But okay, so because we failed to put together an A team to go to the World Relays, based on the new standings, they are selecting the 14 out of 16 teams from the World Relays. That is what we know as fans of the sport. We've seen it, we've read it, but some way, somehow, the coaches in Jamaica, I don't know if we don't have internet here, if we are just, a fourth world country, but some of the coaches said that they weren't aware. So they were having issues to try to put together a team. So they failed to advance.
Yes.
They tried again in the Bahamas 2 weeks ago. They failed to advance based on the next two teams. Yeah. Yes. So the time to beat was 2 minutes 59:12. Yes. So we had to run faster than. They did 2:59:7. So now the organizations of the lovely island of Jamaica have decided, hey, we're going to try and shift things around so we can qualify for the 4x4, yeah? Yes. Bear in mind, we won our first 4x4 medal in 1952.
Yes.
This is historical for us. You
Historical.
are a medalist. This medal is right here. But some way, somehow, we don't pay attention to the relays here in Jamaica.
Yeah.
So now they're scrambling around, right? Scrambling, trying to put together a team, trying to invite another country here as well.
Yeah.
So they've moved around the schedule. So the 400 meter is no longer on a Sunday. It's now
And then on tomorrow.
ending tomorrow.
Yes.
Right? So the semifinals and finals tomorrow.
Semifinals is tonight.
Tonight, and then the
6:50
finals
is
tomorrow. And then they're going to run the 4x4 on Sunday. Hopefully, they can put together their best 4 men. I've said this on a Twitter space publicly. My 4 men from the get go
Okay, let's go.
was Javon Powell, and that was a 4. He ran the 44.5, by the way.
Yeah.
At the time, I said Sean Bailey. He had gone 44.9. I said Zandron Barnes, and then I said Rashawn Clark.
Okay.
That was my 4.
That's a solid
Everybody were in their feelings. They were asking, what about Antonio Watson? And I said, I can only pick based on what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
I have not seen anything. Yeah. Lo and behold, now his coach literally said it yesterday that he's not even sure of where he's at physically. So let's just watch and see. But if they had put together that team from World Relays,
Yeah.
they would have made it.
Wouldn't have had that problem, man. I mean, obviously, that's a situation, but I mean, as media, that just adds to the excitement. So now we talk about Sunday, right?
Woo.
Obviously, I'm assuming they're gonna pick a team based on how the finals turn out.
Yeah.
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
They're gonna see, who's actually in form. It might be Antonio Watson, depending on what he runs. Might not be. I think the people who finished top 3, are, they have incentive. They have $1 million. We talked about that earlier.
Seal it still.
Exactly. See, they're gonna have $1 million that they're running for. The split 250 a piece. Nice piece of change.
Love it.
Outing right there with your girl.
Yeah.
So if anything, I think they did it on purpose so they could get this $1 million.
Oh, you think so?
Nah, but let's say Sunday comes around, right?
Yeah.
Let's say they have some team, our best team that we put together. What's your prediction for the time that we're gonna run? Are we gonna be at Olympics in the men's 4x4 relay?
Anything is possible.
Anything is possible.
I always say this about Javon Powell.
Yeah.
There are certain athletes, right, for me, that even if it is that in their individual event they're not superb, it's on a relay team, and that's what we need from our relay personnel, right? Javon Powell, for me, him will find it.
Yeah.
No matter where I feel, no matter how tired he is, I feel like on a relay, he'll get it done. Can I see them getting a medal? It's going to be very hard.
Yeah.
But if Powell is not tired from the long collegiate season, right? If Sean Bailey is healthy, because him already do 44.9, if we maybe see one more man drop below 45, and if they're all healthy going into Paris, it's possible. Can they challenge for the goal? Absolutely not.
So are you saying that the goal is wrapped up?
Yeah, man. The US team is, bro, US depth, US can close their eyes, bro, and they can pick a 4x4. Them can't even send 2 4x4 teams. A blue team and a red team.
Yeah.
You understand?
Agreed.
But I feel like we can definitely get the time on Sunday. And I feel like, anything is possible. They can definitely challenge for a medal.
Yeah, definitely.
But another big news, Elaine.
Breaking news. Not so breaking. You know what I mean? I just always want to say that. You know what I mean?
Just a little
Breaking news. Yesterday, it broke. Today, it's broken news. Elaine Thompson here announced that she's going to, take the decision that I thought she was going to take. As an athlete, I know the injury was too close, too serious of an injury. I think she's doing the right thing by thinking long term.
Yeah.
Like think about the future, what you can do. She knows what she can do. She knows what she has in the tank. And I think that's one of the smartest decisions she could make instead of chasing, the glory right now. So, I mean, obviously all of Jamaica is with Elaine. We're backing her to have a healthy recovery and come back in 2025. Gonna have the World Championship in Tokyo next September. So that's something we're gonna be looking out for. What was your thoughts when you first saw the post?
I mean, we said it on Tuesday
I
with
think we talked
Janae
about it.
when we were talking about our predictions and our top 3.
And we all had it rightfully so that she wasn't gonna.
Right. And we all said we don't think she's going to run.
Yeah.
We don't think she's going to show up. We said if she shows up, it's just because she has that dog in her, right? But it just wasn't smart.
Yeah.
It's just not a smart move. People are very distraught about this, Fitz. People up on Twitter right now, and them are fraught up as we speak.
Me? I was distraught. I cried myself to sleep last night. Distraught.
But
I couldn't breathe.
in all honesty,
Yeah.
and please do not come for me.
Comfy.
I don't care. In all honesty, as I've said on Tuesday, I did not have her in my top three
Yeah.
based on what I saw.
Yeah.
She wasn't in my top three. My top three still remains Shelly Fraser Price, and in no order: Shelly Fraser Price, Sharika Jackson, and one of the youngins. You're right. It can be
Love
Kemba, it can be Alana, it can be Slowly, it can be the Clayton twins. You guys were, making mention of Sasha Lee Forbes and Natasha Morrison. I feel like that's the mix, but my top two are, two out of the big three. Elaine wasn't a part of my top three based on what I, saw twice this season. Yeah. But just all the best to her. Injuries do happen in the sport of track and field.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm glad we're in a time where now we're giving people their flowers in the moment. And right now, I'm gonna take my chance now to give Elaine her flowers. Like what you've done for Jamaica has just been great. You put the country on a level where obviously there's been other greats before her, but she's continued that. She's took that torch and she's carried it high. And nobody will ever forget what she's done. Remember all the highs. Now you're at a time where you need the comfort from the fans, and we're here for you. And we're looking forward to you coming back. No pressure. Take your time to get back 100% healthy, get back on the track. We're looking forward to seeing you being one of those people. I still think you have 4, 8, 20 more years.
Of course.
Whatever you want, however long you want to do the sport, definitely make the right choices. And I think, this was the first good choice in a long string of good choices that's going to get you back on the track. So big up to Ilian. One love. Hopefully, I'll see you at the stadium. If you're in a talking mood, me and Kareem are did it. We can have a conversation on or off camera. I'm a fan.
Yeah.
I bring my pen, so
It's not an autograph and all these things. But then the other side of the conversation, as we've said on Tuesday too, Elaine is an Olympic dolly. Elaine, I don't know how she find the strength in Olympic years, no matter how injured she is, no matter what's going on, no matter how she's performing prior to Olympics. By the time she steps in that track, bro, she's ready, yeah? So a lot of people were kind of banking on it to say, oh, you know what? An injured Elaine will get it together by Olympics. She's going to get that Olympic gold. Yeah. Now she's out of the conversation. Will Big Foreign, as I call them, will Big Foreign, can they, in decades, they've not gotten a gold medal in the 100 meters for women. Can they, do it now?
Well, I cover American track and field extensively, and I mean, this would be their best chance in years in terms of you look at the lineup. They're gonna have that chemistry. Obviously we can talk about their 4x4 later on, but it's gonna be a tall order for us to going up against them. But I mean, this be their best. I have the reigning champion.
Sha'Carri Richardson,
as good as ever.
Yes,
world leader.
Yes,
she hasn't run a lot of races, especially you look compared to her previous years. She's really been working, building up to this. So I think she's in that type of shape where it's going to be hard to beat her. But as I always say, this is why they run the races. They run the races for a reason, right?
Yeah.
I'd never give anybody a medal before they step on it. Like, how much time have we been watching track? And you're like, oh, you swear so that they got
Of course. Yeah, say yeah, man. Yeah, man.
And I was like, hey, look on it. A lot of people come and prove odds. I mean, Parchment back in 2021. I mean, shock a lot of people. It's just like, hey, run the race. That's why, it's going to be tough to really say, anybody's going to get. There's bigger favorites than others. But I'm not going to give anybody, but I'm saying this is their best year to win that gold medal on their, at least one medal for sure. They walk in here with, right?
I am so worried.
Yeah.
I'm not worried to the sense of, for me, it's early time. And I've said it on Tuesday, and I sound like a scratch record. Our coaches really knows how to, peak our athletes at the right time.
That's true.
And I will never count out a Jamaican in a final ever because I feel like we're finite, right? But, as you rightfully said, this year, Team USA, their chances in the 100-meter, even though they've had Carmelita Jetta, right? And she was on it like a bonnet. You understand me? And a lot of people were doubting what, Shelly and them, could have done then. But Sha'Carri and her teammates, if anything can happen, it's this year.
Yeah.
You understand me? Sharika Jackson, I feel like is going to be there though. And Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce is my number one athlete on my list of athletes I would never doubt. And I just feel like it's not going to be as easy as other people think.
And I'll go to say this. It's going to be a crazy comment to make to some people. But you remember 2008 when Shelly won, kind of had like a little. I'm kind of getting a little feeling with slowly.
Ooh,
Just think about it. Just think about her, like what she did the year before, right?
yes,
Low 11s.
yes.
Come the next year, she dropped the 10 before. I think Shelly first time she ran 10 was at trials in '08, right? She
You
went
don't
on to
say
win
have a
trials,
point.
right?
You do have a point.
Come on in. Everyone,
Yeah, make me get nervous.
our guest is here. As
Yeah,
we
make me
now
get
we'll get into
nervous.
a good conversation.
Y-
You can jump on in.
You're
Right.
making me
Alright, yeah.
nervous when you say that point because
Think
to
about it.
think about it, that is a valid point.
That's all I'm saying.
The same trajectory,
Yeah.
the same camp, the same coach, the same underdog, the same everything. Me never did that pre it.
Hey,
Crystal Story could be it.
hey,
It could be her.
pull a shocker, right? Just like
You know, some of that cry tears though. I mean, tears of joy,
Tears of joy,
right?
of
But again, I just want one thing that I hate, and I can't wait to talk to Veronica Campbell Brown about this, right?
yeah,
One of my worries is, when legends of the sport retire, like maybe mid-season or upon an off-season.
yeah,
I would love to see athletes going out on a high.
yes,
Like, that's what I love to see. So I would love for this year to be Shelley and Fraser Price this year. You understand me? Like, it's like a full circle moment. Like, the world was introduced to you in 2008 in Beijing,
Yeah.
right? When you got that gold medal. I would love for you to bow out of the sport. If this is your final Olympics, pan a podium.
Yeah.
You see me? But now that you said slowly and the trajectory,
makes sense. Hey, you heard it here first. Remember,
no, I'm nervous.
click this right now.
I am
Producer.
nervous.
Yeah.
I wasn't breathing it like that.
Yeah, think about it, man. Like she go out there. Like sometimes people talk about inexperience, but sometimes that inexperience is good because you're not thinking about all the pressure. You don't know what to expect. Everything is the first time you go out there and you're just running. You know what I mean? If you remember that joy in Shelly's face when she crossed the line in '08 and she like look up and she, you know what I mean? She
I remember
comes to
everything
here.
about that moment.
So yeah, you can tell like there was just pure joy. I think like slowly has that kind of trajectory. And I don't want to put any like extra pressure
right.
on her, of course,
Naturally.
but it's just like thinking like, she definitely has that potential. 10-9.
Know that you've said it. And I mean, obviously, without Brennan Liston, or we've said it on Tuesday, without Brennan Liston competing at the national trials, she's now the fastest Jamaican
Yes.
for 2024 entering the trials. So it's not far-fetched.
Yes.
It's not far-fetched.
Definitely.
But we never did a pre all the way to Olympics and the possibility of that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
100%. So, people, our guest is here. Episode 4 of Roots and Records.
That sounds so lovely. Wow.
Put the intro
No, yes,
music,
well,
Tanya Lee. Hey, welcome on.
Tanya Lee Perkins. Yeah.
All due
Corner your
respect, Mr.
husband say,
Perkins. Tanya Lee Perkins. Tanya.
Yeah, and should.
Yeah, no, I need to update the graphic, Look, every year, I have to go through who get married so I can add on, because,
Tanya Lee.
yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
welcome to the show.
Welcome.
How are you doing? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Been working. Yeah.
Yes. How was that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But before we go into, branding and what you're doing and all that you've done, I kind of want to take it back to your formative years just a little bit, right? For the persons who may not know Tanya Lee Perkins a lot, we may have seen you a lot. We know your work. But I want to take you back to St. Hugh's High, graduating from St. Hugh's. You wanted to become
All
a
the way back.
liar, whole heap of different things. You wanted to become a liar, an author. It was a lot.
It
And
was a lot,
It was a
yeah.
lot. And then you...
I feel like that's all of us when we're growing up, though.
Well,
We're
it was
like,
something.
we want to be a doctor, or we're going to be a lawyer.
Yeah,
So that's what it
prostitute.
was. And I was faced to. So my mother said, you're like the family lawyer. So I took on that tag. But the truth is, I feel like I eventually got into what I really loved, which is sports and marketing.
Mm,
Yeah. So sports was always my passion.
yeah.
Wasn't very good at it in high school at all. But
What sport did you try in high school?
funny enough, I came into track and field late.
Okay.
My final year at St. Hugh's, I was host captain. The host was coming last. I'm extremely competitive. And I threw myself into the 100, 200, 400, high jump.
Oh,
I'm not
shoot.
joking. I was second in everything. And him said, hold on there.
So you can do like a thing.
So
Yeah.
when I went to university, what's happening here?
So we're at Olympic middle. 16.
Okay, I'm back on.
Alright.
Yeah.
And we're back. Episode 4, Roots and Records at Pegasus Hotel.
Yeah.
Definitely all here promoting Brand Jamaica, track and field overall, nobody better than Tanya Perkins. You know, marketing specialist, owner of Lee Marketing.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Lee marketing, which is Lee and Perkins.
that's right. Hey,
Take the lead. Take the lead.
that's what, take the lead. You know what I mean? You know, she done so much amazing work and you're always behind the scenes. So before we even get into the whole marketing, definitely will still continue the story. 400 meter hurdles, the post is just that, don't know why. But
Right. Middle 400,
Yeah.
that was my special. So then he said, you know, I feel like we've been working. Actually, we changed coach. So we had Coach Price and then Coach Oliver came. You know, famous Coach Oliver. And he said, I think you'd be your natural hurdle. And that was my last day in track. I did not want to do the hurdle.
Wait,
And
you're
I
serious?
just didn't come back. It was very serious about it. And I just didn't go back.
Because wait, 400 meters.
Three 100 meter?
Yeah.
Really power, really. You know what I mean? So, but, you know, I
Yeah,
actually.
he's
Eventually,
Yeah,
yeah.
man. So he said, you don't want to try to hurdle? He's trying to
I'm trying to do more time.
You're trying to give me a hint here, sir. All right, so then fast forward. You've gotten a master's in gender and development.
Yes, I have a master's in gender development studies.
So, beauty and brains, love it. And then we've known you particularly. Well, I've known of you since you were on, at Sportsmax.
Yes.
Um,
Vice president of marketing.
yeah. And now you have lead marketing.
Yes.
Doing so well, and you work with a plethora of, or great athletes. Can we just talk about you starting that?
Well, you know what? They say if you want to figure out what you should do with your life, you should probably think about what people ask you to do all the time. And the truth is that while I was at Sportsmax at Head of Marketing, I used to get approached a lot by athletes across different sports. So whether it was cricket, track and field, football, you name it, all the top names in sports would reach out for one thing or the other. So they'd either be like, Tanya, I have a crisis, how can we do this? Like, do you think I should have an interview? Or they would say, we got a contract offer from a brand, but we really don't know how to negotiate it. Like, can you help us? Or somebody said, I'm trying to get sponsors. Can you help me to get one? Because I know that you guys do sales at Sportsmax and you do sponsors every day. So I was approached a lot about that. Or somebody responds me to write a press release or announce their retirement. I've done so much free work over the years that when I decided to go out on my own, I should do this full time. And while I was there, I was working on a couple brands as well at the time. One of them was Elaine. Because by then everybody was working from home and I
Yeah.
didn't have an office space, so there was
Oh,
no
yeah.
pressure for me to really build out. I took my time and was able to develop the company the way I wanted it to be developed. So yeah, that's really
I
it.
feel like the pandemic really, pushed a lot of us into more into our passion, right?
Agreed.
To take that leap of faith. No jokes. So you started 2020. You've
I
worked
did before
with,
the pandemic.
right. So
Coincidentally.
right before the pandemic.
Yes.
And then we've seen you've done work with so many different people in football, track and field, race cars.
Yes.
How do you do it all? How do you balance everything?
I think it's my passion that really drives me every day. And this sounds very cliche, but it's the reality for me. It does not feel like work. This is what I love. And sometimes it's the athletes themselves that give me that drive. Like, for example, I can tell you before I started out and I thought I would be managing track and field athletes.
Yeah.
That's all I had in mind to do. And then I got a phone call from a footballer, Damian Lowe, and he said, "You sure you don't want to manage a football brand?" And I remember thinking, "Can I manage a football brand?" And so we kind of figured it out together as we went along. And then I had and now I have Andre Blake.
Yeah.
The same thing with motorsports. I happened to get a phone call from Sarah Mizer's dad, Formula Woman driver Sarah. And he said, "Listen, I have a daughter. I know you manage athletes in football and track and field, but how would you feel about motorsports?"
Yeah.
And I said, "I have never even been to Dover. You think this is a good idea?" And he says, "Yes." And so I'm very proud of how we've been able to build out those brands. And then after Sarah came Fraser McConnell. So, one leads to the other, but it's my love for sports that really drives me.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds great. I mean, me as an athlete just love hearing that because I mean, I can tell like a lot of your athlete background has led to a lot of the success because look, you heard this, you pivot, you learn how to go into something that you never known. Just like when you jumped in the track and field and just like figure it out as you go. Have you ever been scared when you were doing any of these things?
Everything. Every day. And so many different things. You want to make sure you're making the right decisions. You're dealing with young people and you're dealing with their career. You want to align them with brands that are right fit. You don't want to build out a brand and apply any undue pressure to a young athlete either, because that's very important. There's so many considerations on a day-to-day basis. And as a woman,
Yeah.
maybe it's a part of our emotional makeup, right? But we do think about that, and I ponder that a lot. I always am careful to try to make the right decisions, which I don't always get it right. But that is definitely a part of it, I think.
And you're not just managing any athletes, you're managing Jamaican athletes and
International
obviously
brands.
international brands.
Yes.
It's a big.
Yes,
I mean,
it
bigger,
is.
bigger foreign, bigger yard.
Yeah.
What kind of like ins and outs does that have? Like, what's the difference between what you think managing a Jamaican brand as compared to other countries?
All right. So I can't really speak to other countries because I've never managed anyone that was not Jamaican.
Yeah.
Actually, I have, I have a Trinidadian, Shaka Hislop, who he's an ESPN analyst, but he does mostly speaking engagements.
Yeah.
He represents brands, but he's a Trinidad and Tobago legend who played in the English Premier League. The truth is, I couldn't say that there is a difference. I will say one thing about managing athletes. So I've been approached many times about managing musicians, and I don't think that's my foray. The one thing I'll say about managing athletes that I think is great is they have a high level of professionalism just by virtue of what they do. They have to be on time for training. You
True.
must be on time for match. You must go to your physio. You have to eat properly. There are so many elements that go into being an athlete that naturally I'm getting people that are responsible, driven. Athletes are driven.
Yes.
They're very competitive by nature, most of them. So what you find is that they're ambitious. I heard Shelley and Elaine's coach speak recently about the fact that they kept him on his toes.
Yeah.
And that is the case for me as well.
Yeah.
Because every other day somebody has a new idea.
Mm.
And then I have to execute. I have to think about whether this is the right time, the right fit. But they often keep me on my toes. Their expectations, what they want for their careers, etc. So I think high level of professionalism is what I would say.
Yeah. I've always been on this thing about athletes and branding. So for the past 4 years, I've been giving away these free, speeches. I'm gonna stop, gonna forget start pay me on social media about the
No gatekeeping,
importance, right?
Kareem.
We're not gonna pay me for my things, yeah, so please. About branding and personal branding and the importance of personal branding. And I've had a lot of conversations with young and older athletes. And sometimes man for job, some of them. Sometimes I would see some posts on social media
Yeah.
and I have to just be like, listen, this is not it, bro. Like you have to think outside of just a shoe sponsor.
Yeah.
You have to think outside of just, the Nike and the Puma and the thing.
That's one of the tough parts of the
Yeah.
job. That sometimes you have to be a little strict and you have to be the bad guy. It's a part of the job, but it's necessary because you're thinking about the brand, you're thinking long term, you're thinking about how they are perceived by corporates, which is very important if you're going to want sponsorships. You must look at the brand and whether this is a brand that will translate to corporate Jamaica. Will it translate globally as well in terms of how you speak, how you bring yourself? Are you growing your audience or are you shrinking it now to just Jamaicans who understand you? So there are so many variables that I think go into brand building and also ensuring that at all times you have to think about how do I represent myself? How am I building out my brand? A lot of times some aspects of it is to be aspirational. What are the things I'm saying to other people? Because the truth is the average person looks to athletes for inspiration. In our regular day-to-day lives, we are seeing people are overcoming obstacles every
Yes.
day. They are pushing ahead. We saw them lose last week, but now they're on top this week. How did they come back from that loss? And so that's motivation for us in our day-to-day lives with the difficulties that we have with work, family, love life, everything else in between. So I think it's a huge responsibility, but the brand building aspect, very important.
Yeah, I mean, I agreed with that, but we all know that it's business and it's not all sunshine and roses, right? So on the flip side, what are some things some athletes who are building their brand and they're dealing with more, businesses? What are some things that you tell them to look out for when it comes to like contracts? There's some high level things. I know you don't want to give out the
Yeah.
keys that they have to pay for the consulting for, but like, what are some things that athletes watching this now can walk away with saying that, hey, these are some things you need to look out for as you go into the business side of things?
I actually don't mind sharing because I can't manage everybody.
Yeah.
I think one of the things they have to look at is to work on building out their brands. Now, to me, nobody should just be thinking about the sport that they do. That's half of the job.
That's true.
I think the storytelling, how much you post on social, doing those interviews, all those are an important part of building out a brand. To me, sports is a vehicle to take us to the next thing. It's a platform from which we're building out who we are. When you think about the life cycle of an athlete, it's pretty short.
Yeah.
It's a small aspect of your life. You know this.
True.
You've done it.
Yes.
And so you have to think about everything that happens after. And the life after track and field, football, motorsports, everything is much longer than the life that you had during a sport. So how am I making an impact now that I can continue to bank on? So just use an example of my client that I mentioned earlier, Shaka Hislop. He would have played in the Premier League for 14 years at top flight football in England. He went to the World Cup with Trinidad in 2006. But during that time, you're brand building. So when he's done, he goes off to ESPN. He's an analyst, has been there since, I think, 2008, thereabout. But you want to think about all of that. So get the media training because even last year, when was the World Cup? Was it last year?
World Cup was 2022.
Okay, yeah.
I think it was, yes.
2022.
So even during the World Cup,
That's
two of
right.
my footballers, Damian Lowe and Andre Blake, were analysts
Yeah.
on TV.
Yes.
Because, of course, we're not at the World Cup. How
Yeah.
can we get value for the brands
Yeah.
as well as maybe it's something that you can look at growing in for when you retire?
Yeah.
To be a commentator or an analyst or a part of the broadcasting world is an option for a lot of athletes. So they kind of get a chance to wet their foot and see if that's something that they'd love to do. So it's
Yeah.
things like that.
I mean, I really, really love that answer. Obviously, Leap Marketing know what they're talking about because we're talking about longevity, right? And me now, when I was an athlete, I wasn't thinking about this, right? Tanya, you just mentioned that your lifespan in the sport, your client had 14 years. 14 years is really nothing in the whole thing of your lifespan. If you retire when you're 35, which is a long sporting career, you're probably going to live up until you're 80. So you're going to live long after. Are you gonna make enough money in your sport that's gonna sustain your lifestyle? More than likely, no. So you need to have that brand that you build up over that 14 years that could get you a job, get you opportunities as an analyst on other sports things. So at least do not think about that. We're in the moment, especially when it comes to, you know, what are you spending your money on now? You know, you get 100K. Are you gonna buy a car? Are you gonna invest that in some stocks? Are you gonna buy a house? Something that's gonna live on. So that's something that I want to talk about a lot in terms of the finances. And I think you make a great point in letting athletes be aware of, like, hey, you know, you're not just here to just, you know, say get Jaden a contract for right now, right? You're here to build Jaden's brand long past when he retires, whether it's 35 or 40. So you're thinking long term, which is what, you know, unfortunately, I can tell the truth. A lot of people within track and field specifically don't think about that. They want to maximize on the athlete's money right now and how much they can make off them. But when they're finished, all the money is finished during their competitive years, and you know it goes long beyond that. And you know once they finish competing, those agents are gone. You know they're onto
Absolutely.
what's next, and that's some of the unfortunate things. So like I want to talk about contracts in track and field
Yes.
a little bit, and why you think it's been so secretive. It's a question I've asked almost every athlete. Why do you think contracts in track and field is so secretive?
It's the same thing with contracts in a job. It's
Yeah.
the same way you'd walk through the door, and Kareem and I will interview for the same job,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna negotiate a price, and he's gonna negotiate a price, and it could be as far apart as you could imagine, because at the end of the day, the companies trying to save money.
Yeah.
That's the reality of shoe companies. That's the reality of anything. The least people can pay, they will. So
Yeah.
I think that level of secrecy keeps it private. You don't know. If you look at it like the American culture, it is to tell you what the figures are.
Yes.
So even in something like the US MLS, the salaries are public.
Public, yeah.
You can go online and see what a footballer is making. And I think that's helpful to an agent to be able to negotiate, or a player
Yeah.
to be able to negotiate and say, hey, but I realize that this player is making this is what's happening. And so I think I deserve to be at this level based on what I'm bringing to the team, etc. So that's really one of those, I think, very tricky ways
Yeah.
of ensuring that you're probably not getting as much as you should. Let me put it like that.
Yeah, I mean,
what do you think?
I think you made a great point just now, right? Answer the question perfectly in terms of they're trying to take away that negotiating point from you, right? If an athlete jumps 17 flat, you're making $100,000, and there's an athlete jumping 16.5, and they're making 150,000. If I knew that,
Yeah.
you can't pay that person more than me, right?
Yeah.
I'm bringing more value. You know, I probably have a bigger brand. I'm winning international medals. You can bring all those to the table now and negotiate against that. So shoe companies can end up paying you less than you're thinking you're getting. You might be thinking you're the highest paid person,
Yeah.
but without that pay transparency, then you know you're gonna be underpaid. And I think that's helped a lot of people in the NFL and the NBA be able to negotiate, because they can look and like, oh, that guy's averaging 20, he's getting 100 million. I'm averaging 30, so you have to give me 200 million, right? I'm contributing more to the team.
And I think that's why it's so important who is negotiating for you.
Yes.
So that's one of the considerations that I think that athletes need to make. Be very careful about who you have as your representatives, because you need people with experience in what they're doing and an understanding of how to negotiate. Because that shoe contract is so important in terms of everything, in terms of what the terms are related to it. And I think times have changed a lot. So the ability to, I would say, step out of the box is a leverage that athletes have that I don't know if they know that they have. Because for a lot of them, they're sought after brands.
Yeah.
You know, so you want to be able to sit at that table with somebody who knows how to negotiate. And there are some top agents, we all know them. And there are some that are not that great. When you think about even a sport like football, the agent is so important because those negotiations with the top clubs in the world, the negotiations with the teams that you're playing at, it makes or breaks your career.
Yes.
And your earning potential has to be maximized because, as we said before, it's a short window. So you want to make the right decision.
Yeah.
AKA, don't be cheap with your agent.
No, please. And no offense, but it's not your auntie and your uncle.
Yeah.
No
It's
offense.
business.
It is a job, right? But this is another conversation also that we've seen, especially on Twitter, about our Jamaican athletes, and do we have any brands, right? For argument's sake,
Usain Bolt.
right? But like currently, so is this discussion now, right, where the American athletes, have been getting these big contracts, and then I'm seeing this trend now of saying there's just a handful of marketable athletes. And I mean, I do understand their points because some of these athletes will eventually need help in that department. But I do feel like we do have marketable athletes. Jadon is very marketable.
Yeah.
I can think of 10 brands that I know that Jadon, could do well with. Shellen Fraser Price, Hansa Parchment. There's so many, to me, but I just don't think athletes do understand the power of their branding outside of their respective sports.
I want to expand on that before you answer because
Okay.
I agree 100%. It's so I did a thread with an athlete. I won't say the name, and just listing out the brands partnership that they did this year. It was at least 10, and these are big brands that they did it, right? I feel like our Jamaican athletes don't.
I know who that athlete
Yeah,
is. We all do.
yeah, that Jamaican athletes who don't get those opportunities. A lot of people speculate is because of the location, proximity, and how us as Jamaican translate to bigger
nationality. It's a
audience,
part of it.
nationality, right? So like you tell me, I'm ready to learn right now. How much does that actually play a part in the negotiation, and should it in terms of those things?
This may not be an opinion that people want to hear, but I think
Unpopular opinion.
it's an unpopular opinion, but I think that a part of it also is a numbers game related to where they're from. It's
Yeah.
the reality of the world. The US is a much bigger market than Jamaica. And unfortunately, you'll find that a lot of those US athletes will bank more because, by virtue of where they're from.
My only pushback on that is
Yes.
in the NBA, right? Specifically, they have Giannis who's being pushed by Nike. They have Yakov who's from Slovenia. They
Yeah.
have.
But they're part of an American sport.
They are
so
part-
yes.
Yes, so I feel like track and field is global, so it can be like put into these brackets of like, hey, I've got to bring up Usain Bolt. Obviously, he was
Yes.
like big with Gatorade, which is an American brand.
Absolutely. And I
So-
think brands are looking for numbers too. So you're saying his numbers are in the where is it? Well, you're saying it's obviously
He has 12 million Instagram followers. So
how many does
12
he have
million.
now? It's 12 million.
or
No,
upwards of that, yeah.
that's the strongest. Who is next? Maybe Shakiri.
Shakira has 3 million right now.
Shakiri would be next in track and field.
Yeah, no, actually next is actually a German girl named Alika. She has 5
Really?
million followers. You probably don't know. She's a model and she's signed with Boss.
There you go.
So
So those numbers are important. And I
Yes.
think that's also going to be
yeah,
a
that's proving your
metric.
point. Yes.
So the metric that marketers look for are things like your brand reach, your engagement, your
yep.
following. And that's why I always say ensure that you're building your brand as you go along. It's an important part of what you do. And that's why it's only half of the job to compete. The other half is how am I building out my brand? How am I building my following? How do I engage with the public? How do I ensure that my name becomes a household name? All of those considerations are so important because you're going to bank off of that. That's how you're going to be able to pull in the sponsorship dollars. Because when somebody like me sits at a table, I'm talking numbers. I'm talking following online.
Yes.
I'm talking, how many media mentions you have. All of that is a part of the metrics that brands are looking for. And that's why it's important. That's why Usain Bolt to this day is going to be banking. And the single most important thing as well is this sounds terrible, I don't know. Winning is important.
It is important because it puts you in front of more people, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So Jamaicans love winners.
Yeah.
And I think globally people gravitate towards winners. And so that's an important consideration too. If you can get in front of the audience in your sport, the more you win is the further in front you get in front of them, the more headlines you're gonna gather, the more people are gonna talk about your brand. So looking at even Shakiri, it was so important for her to win. And with her being world champion last year, all those brand deals
Yes.
came as a result of that happening. I'm not sure that they were there before.
Yes.
Outside of Nike, I don't
yeah.
remember.
And
But almost every week now there's a new deal.
Listen.
But here's-
It's it's on the back of the work that's done. So also that's an important part. How do you build out that legacy?
Yeah.
How well are you doing in the sport that's gonna continue to pay you? And again, you're saying it's just a perfect example. Yes.
lifetime deal. So this is my thing. My last question on this particular topic, because I don't know if I'm excited about this conversation particularly because you're in the back end of what's happening, so you know exactly what it takes. I'm actually gonna make it into 2 questions, so I can just get it in. What are athletes who are winning but don't have a social media built out brand built
I
out? at
don't
all? What are
understand
they
it.
what are they missing out
They're
on?
missing
lot of
everything. I
things.
don't understand it. I'm very confused by it. I can't get with it.
I
I'm
think
not
some
okay
people have
with
that
it.
cool mentality, like, oh, I'm not even on the social media.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. It's like sports is entertainment.
Yeah.
For you to attract and pull people in and create that excitement around your brand, look at, all right, I'm going to use an example out of America because Americans market very well.
Yes.
That's the reality, right? So like an agent, Angel Reese,
Mm-hmm.
and just
Yes.
everything surrounding her brand is so exciting. When you look at, what's the name of the gymnast? Simone Biles.
Simone Biles.
Yes.
Yeah, there has to be some sort of excitement generated around your brand. You have to engage with the audience. Everybody does it. Cristiano Ronaldo to this day has the most following of anybody, not just in sports, but just overall in
Anybody,
the world on social. And he's still engaging with fans, posting, doing the interviews. I went to Cleveland after LeBron James and the Cavaliers won the NBA. I went to media day there. And I remember it was over 2 days, and I'm the biggest LeBron James fan you could find. I was so disappointed on day one because everybody just left the court after. And as media at the time, I was media at the time with Sportsmax, we aren't allowed to take photos with the basketballers. I was like, damn it, I want my picture. So the next day, after media training and everything, they had training, media day was done. Guess who stayed back and spoke to everybody for over an hour?
Biggest
LeBron,
stars.
the biggest star. He didn't need to do it. His brand is already built. He's the biggest name. Kyrie left, Iman Shumpert left, you know, Richard Jefferson left, everyone left. LeBron was the only one who stayed back. And he was talking to us about like things he was watching on TV, the kind of uniforms that he loves now in college basketball. You know, he's talking about his son and what he's doing. And I'm thinking, he's so smart.
Yeah.
He's building his
and I mean,
rapport.
and they don't get it, right? They need to understand. This is something to another free lesson that I've been giving you guys on social
No
media.
gatekeeping.
Right? For me, the world is evolving, right? This is no longer the era of just watching your favorite athletes on television. This is no longer the era of just, you know, seeing your favorite athletes just running on a track. We have access now. We have social media. You don't understand that you being, once again, a brand outside of your sport is so important. Like right after you run or right after you play or having a presence on social media is of paramount importance.
Do you know
Doing
what I love
interviews is
now?
important.
Kareem, you know what I love now? I love seeing how Asafa has built out his brand
Yeah.
post-retirement. Because now what he's using is a combination of his family,
Yes.
which I think Alicia is just so smart and a
Yes.
great compliment to Asafa. He has an online presence now. He's in a different chapter in his life, and he's utilizing that to not only showcase and highlight his sport, but to also showcase and highlight family life, Jamaica, so many different aspects. And I think that's brilliant. And it's even more brilliant because Asafa wasn't doing it while he was running.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, we
And now,
wanted.
if you're in the social media wasn't as big.
No, I think it was a personality thing. So
You
for
never really have much of a
example,
personality on the track,
so
right?
for example, when I listened to his interview recently with Justin Gatlin, and Justin said, "I didn't even know your voice.
Yeah.
We were beside each other in the lanes for so many years." To me, that's very interesting. So whenever I see an athlete run and walk straight through the tunnel,
Man, I like it. I'm sorry. I can't tell you no.
We
If
were
it's
just-
someone
we
said
were-
new
we were
say.
just talking about that
Me
the other
eat
day.
it.
Like what it looks, they want to. It's a cool.
It's not cool.
Cool guy thing that they're thinking. You know, is good.
maybe they're shy. I think sometimes people are introverted and it's
That
not
is
a
true,
natural
and you
part
can't
of their
force it because
personality.
you can tell when it's being forced. But like, look at
Yes.
you saying about dancing. Like that's.
I mean,
you know what I mean.
I
Like,
get it,
Yeah.
but I'm going to have to disagree.
Yeah.
You understand? Because this is something I'm very passionate about. You can be an introverted person. You can be very shy. We're not going to have the same personality, right? Because I say I'm an introverted extrovert. So it depends on if I'm working. But if I'm sitting by myself, sometimes I'm very quiet, right?
Yes.
Just honest with
Right.
yourself.
But everybody's not like that, and I get it. But that is the reason you have agents, you have managers. That's the reason you take media training. That's the reason you invest in your brand. You are now a brand, not just an athlete running a race. If you just want a shoe deal, then fine. But if you want to expand outside of that and to become a household name, it comes with a lot. It comes with you being personable.
I look at other sports. I'm gonna use another Jamaican example, like Chris Gale.
Mm.
Chris is basically retired from the sport now, but he's everywhere.
Yeah.
Every time I log on to IG, Chris is at Ascot this weekend, or he's at Formula One, or
Yeah.
he's at the T20. He's a face of it now with Usain.
Yeah.
There's always something that he's doing, and guess why? Because Chris was one of those people who paid a lot of attention to just how much he was in the public eye while he was a part of the sport. And he did those interviews and he was a colorful personality. He infused dance into
Yeah.
his celebration, if he took a wicket, because Chris is just that big personality. Now, I don't think you should manufacture it, by the way.
Yeah,
It
but
has to be
yeah.
It should
authentic.
come natural. Yeah.
You're gonna feel it.
Right, but
Absolutely.
think about little things like think about Wonder Kid. That's such a cool name.
Yeah.
Think about a nickname, a hashtag, one hibby. Think
Something.
about a
Kenny Bennett, Kung Fu Kenny.
Kung Fu
Kung Fu
Kenny.
Kenny
Yeah.
with the
The headband. Yeah.
there you
bandana.
go. That's
Yeah.
a brand. Think about
Something.
signature
Shelly
that-
and the Wigs.
Yeah.
Something.
Shelly's here during the major championships.
We're
That's-
so excited for that.
it's
yeah.
a part of the persona. So I think whatever it is that you can do to stand out, because again, it's like there are all these pieces. Why would I pick you?
Yes.
Why would I
Yeah.
choose you for sponsorship? It's because you have now separated yourself from the pack and you're doing more.
A true story here, right? There's this athlete. Father God, I hope you're not seeing this. There's this athlete that I was giving some advice to one time, right? Trying to mentor. No, this brand had reached out to me, asked me to recommend at least 4 or 5 young athletes. They wanted to do some activation with some young talents. So I said, all right, then, see my for you. You understand? I was cool with the general manager, the sponsorship manager, so I talk, whatever. Went on the athlete's page. I think it's this cool thing, as Fitz would say, to be mysterious, right? So it's like 1, 2, 3 picture. When I go to the highlights, I be a chopper music and I be a this and the chopping and the chopping and the chopper and the this. And I'm like, are you a scammer or are you an athlete? I'm gonna call him up like, brother, like you need to remove all these things and you need to start doing this. Bear in mind, I don't want to turn into X, right? So for argument's sake, he would have said, I'm not trying to be like Fitz. I'm not trying by myself, brother, and this and that. And when I told up on the interview thing and whatever. And I said to him, opportunities will pass you by. I've lived to see the same person has called my phone apologizing last month. Like, yo, my name was being mentioned in some rooms for some opportunities and I didn't get them. You understand?
Yeah.
And he's just like, it's because of the image that I was putting out. And you've said this to me last year. And I said, bro, I'm not trying to be hard. You see me? Like, if I rate you, and I've made these mistakes probably in my past, so I can tell you from experience, this doesn't make any sense. You're an athlete. Like, look like an athlete.
I don't even want to stop you because everything you just said was absolutely golden.
Yeah.
Can we just bottle it?
I'll
Like,
sell it.
you are 1,000% correct. In fact, I get those calls every day. When people think sports marketing, I'm probably one of the first calls that they're going to make.
Factual.
Brands reach out to me all the time, and I always recommend they don't have to be my athletes. It's not every day that the opportunities I think are a brand fit. They may not have the budget. It for many different reasons. I am very happy to say, what do you think about this athlete?
Yeah.
Sometimes they don't even know that I was a part of that. A lot of campaigns I see happening now, I actually recommended a lot of those people. And the truth is, sometimes I have that same problem. I'm thinking, well, that person may be good, but when I head to their socials, I cringe because they're not doing the work. So I can't now say to a brand, no, man, this person is pretty cool. This person would be great. They are going to do all the right things. No, because that is not shown on your social space. There is nothing there. And same thing Kareem just said. Sometimes I head there and I cringe because what is this? What does it say about your brand?
Yeah.
And we're in that age now where that's a part of what, unfortunately, that's the resume. That's what people are now utilizing to decide whether you're a brand fit,
Yeah.
whether this is the right voice. A lot of times people want you, well, everyone wants you to be absolutely authentic because people love that youthful expression.
Yeah.
We're past the stage now where we're doing the corporate image and it needs to be sterile and you're
Yeah.
going to give the media friendly answer only.
Yes.
But you still have to be professional.
Please. Please.
Yeah, I think people are really embracing, people that the true self. You don't have to
Yes.
like really straighten up, I mean, I did a video once about Usain Bolt, and I know come to Brandon, you have to mention Usain Bolt because he was like probably one of the biggest in doing it, being himself, without having to have repercussions for that. But switch back gears to the earlier financial conversation that we are having. Financial education isn't a big thing for athletes, and I know you're there. You're help guiding athletes through the whole stage of their career, past their career and their life, which is, different from a lot of agents. I'm going to tell you guys, the agents, they don't care. But like,
I would say all of them. I know
uh,
some who actually
some
really
agents
do.
obviously
Yeah.
talking broadly, but
Yeah.
talking about that in terms of financial education, what type of advice do you give athletes in terms of like,
I usually don't.
yeah,
I don't actually. In the role that I play, typically what I do is I want to know what role they would like me to
Yeah.
play in their lives, and I fulfill those roles. I can't be everything to everybody,
That's true.
and I will say that very often the
One
agents.
second. Switch the battery.
Mike is still hot.
Mike.
Yes. Wait.
Yes. Go back live. I'm recording again. Back live. And we're back live. Episode 4, Roots and Records, the podcast by myself, Kareem Bowyatingz. Talk about the upcoming Jamaica trials and Jamaica brand worldwide. Tanya, you were talking about financial education with athletes and
Yes.
the role you play.
Yes. So normally that conversation happens at the agent level.
Yeah.
They're managing most of the money anyway.
Yeah.
And so that's a very important conversation to have though. In the instances with the athletes that I've worked with, I know that has been a part of the discussion for sure. So I don't have to have that talk because it's a part of it. And but it is very important because as we discussed earlier, there is a shelf life and you want to make sure that you are maximizing while you can, but also that you're being frugal with the money that you're making. And it's so important that while you're making that money, that you're spending it wisely. You're getting your real estate together so that when you retire, you have your properties and that's how you'll earn.
Yeah.
Whatever it is that you're interested in, you're investing in that. There's so many different things now that athletes are doing. I see that Johan has a brand of water.
Water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Walter, he has his
Yeah.
own physio
There's
place.
a
Physio place as
physio.
well.
I know Nesta Carter also invests in a medical property.
Yeah, Michael afraid to have a marijuana business.
Yes,
going.
yes. So
yeah.
so those things are important, I think, to think about, and that's also something that I always do with my athletes. I want to know what's your 7-year plan.
Yeah.
I do manage a couple of athletes who are now not at the start of their career. So, like with my footballers, that's a part of the discussion.
Yeah.
When are you thinking about retirement? How many years are you giving to the sport? And okay, so you've decided it's 7. What are you doing throughout those 7 years now to ensure that when you're done, because I can tell you, the earning stops immediately when they're done.
Contract
So
cut.
there you go. So that's when you want to make sure that all your investments make sense and that you're thinking about your career and your life after. Using one other example, Andre Blake, the Reggae Boys captain. Very great working with Andre, humble guy, great guy. He has a sports bar in Maypen, and so that's a part of what I will look at as well as a manager, and things like that I like because he's already thinking about
What's going to earn him money after the sport.
absolutely.
Yeah. I see a comment on YouTube just quickly. I think it's by Ask, who says, I have said, why don't we do a seminar during our Prior to Champs to our athletes on branding, financial literacy, contracts, public speaking, etc. That is why we're having this conversation as well.
This is the start.
To impart some
Kareem.
knowledge because it's something that I'm big on.
Yeah.
So I'm glad they mentioned that. Listen, 2 years ago, I was one of the women to watch, I think in the Gleaner Women to Watch
Yes.
list. And like they called and they said, you're making this list. What are your plans for this year? And I've had on paper for so long to do a workshop
Same.
just for athletes. And I said, oh, this year I'm doing that.
Yes.
But when you get inundated with work, literally a week ago, I saw Naomi Garrick. Shout out to Naomi. I was talking to Naomi and she said, Tanya, why are you not doing a workshop? And I said, you know what's funny, Naomi? I've been thinking of doing one for the longest time. And she said, well, we're taking a picture tonight because we're going to put this up once you've done it, and said this was where the genesis of that was.
Yeah.
You
So now
have to
they're
do
asking
it.
about it. It must
So
be-
now they're asking,
must
this
be a
is
sign, you know what I
this
mean?
is a
Divine.
sign. We have to, because there's so many areas. So another area I think is very important that we haven't touched on yet is the mental health aspect of it.
Yes.
Having a mental health, whether it's a sports psychologist, it's a mental health coach, a mind coach, whatever the term is. That's so important too,
Yeah.
to keep you motivated. The life of an athlete is very difficult. I'm still learning a lot about how difficult that is too as I go along. And so it's important to have mental health be a part of your arsenal of support. Because your agent is not a licensed therapist, your manager is not a licensed therapist. Somebody who can deal specifically with exactly what you're going through is going to be useful while you're playing a sport and even after, because we haven't spoken about that too. When you're looking at retirement as an athlete too, that can be one of the most difficult times for an athlete.
Yes.
It's like an athlete dies twice, right? So it's after you retire and the lights are locked off at the stadium and people forget you very quickly.
Oh yes.
Quick.
Because
yes.
it's a cycle.
Oh yes.
So grappling with that as well mentally takes a toll as well, because you are so used to that limelight, and then it just goes in overnight. So even that I think is a part of the arsenal.
I think you're doing a great job in terms of, like, for me, my retirement was kind of sudden. Like, it was like, today I
What
was trained.
happened?
It's an interesting conversation we're gonna have another time, but definitely
Okay.
wasn't pre-planned.
Yeah.
So, but for you, you're doing a great job of giving a 7-year plan, right? So in terms of, like, when that day comes, one, you knew it was coming, so it wasn't that much of a surprise, and they have a plan to go. Me, I didn't have that much of a plan. I knew I wanted to be a marketer, but where was I gonna start? Where was I gonna go? Thankfully I figured it out and I've gotten to where I've gotten. But what we've seen is, you brought up an important topic of mental health. We've seen that the finances have become earlier in kids' life because the NIL. If you don't know what the NIL is, the name, image, and likeness, that have made it legal for kids who go to high school, college, to be able to get paid, or be able to approach by brands and still keep their eligibility to be able to compete in school. One of our very own, Brianna Liston, is
Yeah.
signed to Adidas, and she still goes to LSU. What that does is she can have a professional contract and also go to the Louisiana State University and pursue her education without having to choose between the other. Of course, it's not a straight up professional contract, has its limitations.
But that's still
but
something nice.
It's very, yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you think about the NIL? What do you think the impact is gonna have? Because it's still new. What kind of impact you think it's gonna have on the younger generation?
I think it's good that there is this offer, because for so many decades, it has been a complaint about how much you give to these colleges and schools and how little comes back in return. So the fact that there's an earning potential for the athletes now, I think, is a step in the right direction. So definitely for it. And I've had a couple of people that have reached out to me too across different sports, who say, hey, we now have this opportunity. If there's anything that's happening, let me know. But I think it's great that exists now. Yeah. And what I think I want to see happen also eventually is that people are paid for participating in Olympics.
Oh God, I can't wait.
A little bit
Outside of,
they start a little bit, 50,000 for
that's
the
a
winner.
joke. That's a joke.
It's a start.
Yeah, but we know how much work goes into preparing for track
We know how
and
much
field.
money they're making.
And we know how much money they're
Public.
making. I mean,
Billions.
I've sat as a part of my role at Sportsmax. We bought a lot of cycles of the Olympic Games, the rights fee, the broadcast
Oh,
rights
those are
fee
expensive.
alone. It's very expensive.
Yeah, those are expensive.
So they make a lot of money, and the truth is they're making it on the back of the athletes. And so it's important that we get to a place where it's not just the person who comes first, but it's everybody. Just like the World Championships.
Yeah.
It's everybody that's running, that's earning direct from the sport.
Well, the conversation could continue forever and ever and ever. Amen. But I'm gonna just ask my final question, and it's not pertaining to finances. We're here. National trials kickstarts today
I'm not making any prediction.
until Sunday. Enough in a prediction. Just tell us 3 events that you're looking forward to for the trials.
And it can't be any of your
And it can't be
athletes.
Jadon's
None of your athletes
event.
can't be competing in
Right.
those events.
Wait, well,
So
first
other
of
than
all,
the triple jump.
listen, honestly,
Yeah.
I just hope to see some great performances, because I am a little worried.
Oh, we were talking about that before you
I'm a
came.
little worried. I'm a little worried. So I'm just hoping that we have a good showing. I think the trials is going to show us exactly where we are. I've heard some interviews. I've heard Stephen Francis is a genius, by the way. But
Absolutely.
I've heard his interviews, and I'm looking forward to just see what our athletes have to offer. I'm wishing them all the best. I'm really looking forward to everything.
Yeah.
There's no particular event that my eyes are fixed on, to be
Just
honest
the whole,
with you.
at least the event as a whole.
Yes, and let me just say that I'm actually happy that we have somebody like a Jadon Hibbert now,
Yeah.
because we used to only look at the track events.
Yeah.
Now there is some excitement. I've seen so many comments online that say you've made triple jump exciting.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Jamaicans only cared about the track
Yeah.
events.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The field events as a whole too have been like coming up.
Yes, so
Yeah.
I think that's exciting. I like that American Taro.
Yeah. Tara Davis would all.
Oh, her energy is amazing.
She's a personality.
You know, she and
Amazing
Jaden is
energy.
kind of similar.
Yeah.
And they both train in Arkansas.
I think they're similar. I think her energy is amazing. So they brought a lot of new excitement
Yeah.
to the
fun.
field. Yeah.
Yeah. So my final question is going to be a selfish one. Of course, you know, coming up in the media space now,
Yes.
former athlete, I have some good credentials. Or some advice you have for me going forward? You know, it's Olympic year. You know,
Wow.
stepping
That's a
up.
good question,
Yeah,
Fitzroy.
You know,
That is
that's
a
what I'm
good
gonna do. I'm
question.
gonna use my platform to get
Yeah.
free advice.
That's a good question.
Try my advice to you would be to try everything. I like that you've done this. I enjoy doing this, by the way, and I don't do a lot of media. But
That's
I
true.
said yes because I've seen the work that you've done online and I'm impressed by it. And we've spoken a couple times about it as well. And I would say try everything because the space is new. Social media and the digital age now has made so many other things possible. That wasn't possible when I was coming up in media and we were doing TV and everything was about the rules and making sure that people are 1/3 of the screen. And this was no. Now it's more authentic content. It's organic. You're able to just use your phone and do it. So I would say try everything and think about how you are going to maximize on each event. So the national trials is here. What will I do to ensure that what I'm building on and media wise is front and center? Collaborating.
Yeah,
So run spare.
yeah. Answer.
Awesome.
Chris Carrette.
Absolutely. Great audience. I
Yeah.
mean, over 100,000 on Instagram. So that's good. So the collaborations in the field is going to be good. Collaborate. Don't compete. Collaborate.
I literally said that same thing.
Yeah,
but-
absolutely.
Yeah.
Collaborate, don't compete, and continue to build your name and try everything. And then you will see what works and what doesn't.
It's true.
And it will lead you in the direction that you should keep going in.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Tanya Lee Perkins, owner of Leap Marketing, doing great job with Jamaican athletes, pushing the brand, not just the athletes, but brand Jamaica worldwide. I appreciate you coming on. Obviously, we had conversations before leading up to this. I was very much looking forward to this conversation. As guys can tell, a little bit different from the athlete stuff, but I love talking about the business. Definitely want people to know, you know, even though you want to do the interviews, that people know like what's happening. They need to hear from the people who are actually doing. So Roots and Records, episode 4 is a great one.
Love it.
One of my favorites for sure.
Love it.
Kareem Bowyatingz, my co-host, we've been doing great. Got
Who is now a part of the sports space?
Right? I've just been doing what I love. That's
By the
it.
way, I want to thank Kareem publicly.
Oh,
Can I talk about
for-
it?
oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
When I got a call from Jadon and he asked me to work with him, he said that Kareem had suggested it.
Yeah.
I
I said
appreciate that.
it has to be Tanya.
Yeah, I mean, and I
Yeah.
saw your stuff like that's how
He was trying to sell himself to me, and I'm like,
You're right. He called me like, bro, I want a manager, an agent, a PR, a manager, whatever. And I said, it has to be this one person. And he said, who? And I said, Tanya.
he went into quite a long conversation. I get that sometimes. I get the long messages, but he went into a long conversation. I almost wanted to stop him. I said, Jadon, it's a yes.
Yeah, right? But I'm glad that he found a home in Tanya. When you know me stay already about my Jada and Brennan Liston. I don't play.
Yeah.
Understand. But you're doing amazing. And thank you once again for being here. And thank you for doing great things for Brand Jamaica. Love it.
Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. Thank you for being here. Roots and Records, episode 4. We're at the Pegasus Hotel. Can't wait for the championship later today. See you guys tomorrow for episode 5.